There's something you've been doing your whole life that's been shaping your world without even realizing it. It's not your behavior. It's not your mindset. It's not even your core beliefs. It's how you observe. The truth is, many people stay stuck in cycles not because life is inherently difficult, but because they've been viewing it through the same lens for too long. What nobody told you is this shift your perspective and the entire landscape shifts with it. Picture this: two individuals step into the same space, same lighting, same temperature, same people, same surroundings. Yet one sees potential, while the other sees threat. One feels uplifted, the other diminished. One experiences growth, the other constriction. Same environment, but entirely different realities. Not because of what exists there, but because of how it's being perceived. Here's where it gets profound. Quantum physics tells us this isn't just metaphorical, it's literal. Your perception, your focused awareness is not passive. It's generative. It shapes. It influences. And the more consistently you look through a specific lens, the more the universe reorganizes to match that frequency. That's why your life can seem like a recurring loop, one you can't quite name but deeply recognize, because you're engaging with life from the same energetic state, and the external keeps echoing it back. But here's the good news: that cycle isn't fixed. And today, you'll begin to see how to shift it, not by struggle, but by changing how you observe everything. We were raised to believe reality is static, that what we see is what exists, that matter is fundamental, and that awareness is just a secondary byproduct. But modern quantum theory dissolves that outdated belief. Let this truly land in every moment. Your surroundings aren't static or set in stone. They're fluid. They're potential. The particles forming your world exist in a state of possibility. They don't take shape until they're observed. This isn't science fiction. It's the observer effect, which means the world doesn't exist apart from you. It becomes real through you. And here's the hidden part. You're always observing even when it's unconscious. Every automatic reaction, every expectation, every emotional pattern from your history, all of it is observation. And those habitual subconscious observations, they're collapsing reality into your timeline again and again. You believe you're watching reality unfold, but what if it's reality that's responding to your observation? Not in a fearful sense, but in a way that reveals something powerful. Life is reflecting back the version of yourself you continue to recognize emotionally, energetically, subconsciously. Let me ask you this. How often do you anticipate letdowns before they even happen? How many times have you stood in front of the mirror searching for flaws instead of truth? How often do you check your phone, your inbox, your finances, not with trust, but with anxiety? That is observation, and it's more than just a mental habit. It has weight, not only spiritually, not only emotionally, but on a quantum level. Because whatever you witness as real begins to crystallize into the version of reality that forms around you. Here's what traps most people in the same loop. They try to stay optimistic. They attempt to visualize the future. They even engage in manifestation practices. But the lens they observe through is still tinted with scarcity fear and outdated programming. So even when they reach for something new, their attention is rooted in the old self. And the field reflects that. You can't enter a new reality while still perceiving through the eyes of your past self. But what shifts when you begin observing from a different state? That's the core of what we're diving into. Because there's a reality, an entirely new frequency of experience that's been hidden, not because it's out of reach, but because you haven't been attuned to perceive it. And once you align your perspective with that frequency, reality starts to bend and morph. But I'm not just saying this, I'll guide you through it. In the next part, we'll explore how your focus doesn't just shape your thoughts, it shapes physical form. You'll discover that purposeful observation isn't merely a change in mindset, it's a pivot in timeline. Stay close. This isn't just inspiration, it's the blueprint of quantum creation. And you're about to reconnect with the part of you that knows how to build it. If something inside you is already awakening, even subtly, declare it now. I choose to observe differently. This isn't just a statement, it's a directive to the field. And the field is always responding. You've heard that focus matters, but no one explained what your focus actually does. Because focus isn't just about paying attention, it's energetic ignition. And once you realize how your attention interacts with the quantum field, your understanding of reality and thought will change forever. Focus is frequency. Let's decode that. Your focus isn't simply mental awareness, it's a vibrational tuner. Every time you focus on something, a desire, a memory, a fear, you're broadcasting a signal. That signal has a vibration. And the quantum field doesn't respond to what you want, it answers to what you're attuned to. Focus writes the code. Reality is the projection screen. What shows up on that screen is determined by what you continuously feed your attention into. That's why two people can experience completely different lives in the same external world. They're not witnessing the same reality. Their frequencies don't match. Their internal lenses don't align. Their observations come from different energetic states. Have you ever considered the illusion of neutrality? Here's the hidden pitfall: you believe you're simply witnessing life unfold. But in truth, most people aren't observing. They're unconsciously reinforcing. They fixate on what's absent and call it pragmatism. They dwell on worst-case scenarios and call it preparation. They cling to the past and call it memory. But through the lens of quantum understanding, every act of focus is an instruction, a frequency, a magnetic pull. You're not just observing, you're choosing. So pause and reflect. What am I consistently choosing without realizing? What mental loops do I unconsciously zoom into? What timeline have I been anchoring myself to purely through the way I observe reality? Because when your focus stems from fear, you trigger a timeline that reflects that fear. When your focus stems from lack, you generate experiences that echo scarcity. But here's the breakthrough. You have the power to shift that instantly. Right now, you could redirect your attention toward a version of your life that feels empowered, harmonious, and abundant. You could focus on serenity. You could focus on joy. You could tune into the energetic signature of already possessing what you've been asking for. And the very moment you do that, your inner world begins to transform, not because your outer environment changed, but because your perception did. And that internal pivot, that's the beginning of a new vibration, a new storyline, a new experiential reality. This isn't just theory, science backs it. Dr. Joe Dispenza analyzed thousands of brain scans of individuals who deliberately adjusted their focus. The result: when people deeply concentrated on a future vision infused with purpose, emotion, and clarity, their brains lit up as if that future was already their present. The chemistry of the body changed. The nervous system balanced. Their energy fields grew stronger. Why does this happen? Because the subconscious can't distinguish between a lived event and a vividly observed one if the observation carries enough emotional charge. And the universe is no different. From passive observer to conscious creator, Allow this truth to settle in what you give your attention to. You nurture. What you nurture, you embody. What you embody, you broadcast. And what you broadcast determines the reality you live. So the real question isn't, what do I desire? It's what am I habitually focused on? Because your focus isn't just a response to life, it's an architect of it. It's like a sacred lens that either enlarges your fears or projects the reality you're ready to claim. Most people let their focus operate on autopilot. They scan for what's wrong. They replay familiar traumas. They brace for pain. But imagine this. What if you treated your focus like a sacred tool? What if you refined it, aligned it, uplifted it? You would stop looping through outdated realities and start initiating new ones. You would stop experiencing life through secondhand programming and begin transmitting from your truest frequency. We're about to uncover the one truth that completely redefines manifestation. Because everything you've been told about desire being the key, it's only part of the equation. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you perceive as already true. Get ready, because we're going to break down the real reason things haven't been showing up the way you hoped, and how you can shift that instantly. This may be a bit uncomfortable, but it's the kind of truth that opens everything. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you continuously witness. Let that settle. Because right now, you might be doing all the right things, affirmations, visualizations, meditation, journaling, but if the feeling behind those practices is still rooted in lack, fear, or a sense of not yet, then that's the energetic message the universe continues to replicate. It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because the timing is wrong. It's because your energetic signal is still aligned with the outdated version of reality. Here's the real disconnect: people desire abundance, but view their finances with stress. They want love, but look at themselves with judgment. They crave freedom, but perceive their life through the lens of limitation. That's the misalignment. That's the loop. That's the gap between the reality you want and the frequency you're transmitting. Because you're trying to construct a future while emotionally anchoring yourself in the past. The field doesn't interpret language, it interprets vibration. It doesn't listen to your words, it reads your energy. The energetic matrix around you, the EC field, communicates only in frequency. So when you desire something but approach it with uncertainty or doubt, your signal says, it's missing, and the field responds in kind. Okay, let's keep reflecting that absence. But when you observe your vision with conviction, with gratitude, with the feeling that it already exists, the field begins to reorganize. It's not the strength of your desire that moves reality. It's the authenticity of your energetic resonance. That's the power of aligned observation. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're visualizing financial freedom. The old loop: you imagine the wealth, but then check your account. Feel dread spiral into worry. That's not coherence, it's contradiction. And the frequency that wins is the one you feel strongest. The new loop: you hold the vision of abundance, and when you engage with your finances, you stay centered. You say, this is just a moment. I already sense things shifting. You align with prosperity not because the digits have changed, but because your frequency has. That kind of observation. That's where the power is. That's the alignment that moves timelines. And here's what most people overlook. Observation isn't just where your eyes land. It's what your belief is doing when you look. It all comes down to this. It's not just what you see, it's what you believe when you're seeing it. If your belief is, I'm not there yet, or things never work in my favor, or It's not real until there's proof. Then your perception is anchored in waiting. And waiting isn't passive, it's a frequency. It signals delay. It keeps you in a holding pattern, trying to manifest but never really landing the outcome. Not because your intentions are flawed, but because your inner observer is not attuned to the version of you who already has what you're asking for. Neville Goddard said it best. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why? Because when you perceive reality from the outcome, when you embody the end result, you align with that timeline. But if you view life from the gap, from the sense of lack, then you keep your desire stuck in a state of potentiality. Here's your pivot point. The sooner you can observe your vision as already real, the sooner it manifests into form. Because life doesn't respond to pursuit, it responds to presence. Let's make this tangible. For the next 24 hours, practice this. Anytime you think of a goal or desire, shift your lens and observe it as if it's already yours. When fear or doubt creeps in, meet it like an old memory, not as truth. Whenever you glance at your life, ask, how would the version of me who already lives this reality see this moment? Try it. You'll notice a shift in your energy and the external will begin to reflect it. Now you're prepared to move to the next level. It's not just about shifting your perspective, it's about using your observation to initiate a full timeline change. In the next moments, you'll learn the mechanism behind collapsing old realities and stepping into the one you've always felt was possible. And once you feel that shift within, you'll never look at life through the same lens again. Here's the deeper truth. You've been observing life unconsciously from a place of anxiety, limitation, and inherited identity. And your current reality is simply mirroring that back. But now you understand observation isn't just perception, it's selection. You're not just witnessing life unfold. You're choosing which version of life you participate in. So how do you become a conscious observer, the kind that bends timelines? You start with awareness. Pause. Scan your thoughts. Ask yourself, where does my mind drift when I'm not watching? What version of reality am I constantly rehearsing on default? Do I expect miracles or just maintenance? Because your habitual perspective is the signal the universe keeps syncing with. Notice the automatic emotional responses. When you get a bill, what's your reaction? When you consider your future, what mental images pop up? When you sit in silence, what stories loop through your mind? That recognition is the opening. Because you can't recalibrate a frequency you haven't identified. But now that you see it, you can begin to interrupt it, not by resisting, but by choosing again. Try this intentionally simple yet powerful shift. When a familiar fear starts to rise, speak aloud. That's not who I am anymore. Catch yourself imagining the worst-case scenario. Pause and redirect with, let's run a better scene. Notice your energy slipping back into an outdated version of yourself. Adjust your body. Change your breathing. Recenter your state. These actions might seem insignificant, but they're transformative. Every time you disrupt the old signal, you weaken the well-worn neural route and create room for something fresh. And space is all the field needs to reconfigure itself. Here's where the leap occurs. Close your eyes. Picture the version of you who is already living in overflow, the one who is profoundly loved, who walks with clarity and intention. Ask yourself, how does this version of me move? How do they speak? What do they no longer worry about? What naturally captures their attention? Now here's the pivotal move. View your life through their eyes. Not from your current self, but from their perspective. This isn't fantasy, it's permission. because that version of you already exists in the quantum field. And the moment you begin to observe life from their frequency, you begin collapsing their timeline right now, not someday. Make this a daily ritual. Each morning before the world's noise sets in, sit in stillness. Allow your current identity to dissolve. Release the name, the story, the past. Visualize the future version of you who is already living your vision. Feel their presence. Then begin observing the world through their lens. Picture yourself checking your phone, moving through your space, having a conversation, but all from that new energetic baseline. Hold that perspective for just 3 minutes. That shift in observation. It isn't just cognitive, it's energetic. It adjusts your frequency. It reprograms your field. It signals to the universe. This is who I choose to be now. Don't forget this. You don't have to resist your current reality. You only need to sustain observation of a different one long enough for it to manifest. Your life isn't stuck. It's attuned to a signal you forgot you could alter. But now you remember. And the next time fear resurfaces, or doubt speaks softly, or an old narrative tugs at you, you'll smile and say, "Oh, there's the old timeline again." But I'm no longer tuning into that. You've been living a script, a narrative that began long before you realized you held the pen. And most of that story, it wasn't authored by you. It was programmed by family culture trauma repetition. Without knowing, you've been watching your life through that inherited lens, replaying scenes you never consciously selected, reacting to roles you didn't volunteer for, reliving cycles that feel familiar but false. But now you're becoming lucid in the middle of the story, and you're reclaiming something profound. You're not merely playing the part. You're the one writing the script, and your identity. That's the lens shaping what you observe and what becomes real. Let's take this to a deeper level. Your identity, the internal narrative about who you believe yourself to be, is the lens through which you perceive reality. And as we've already uncovered, whatever you observe starts to manifest. So if your identity whispers, "I'm not ready, I always mess things up, I don't deserve better," or "This is just how I am," that belief becomes the filter collapsing your reality, not because it reflects truth, but because it feels familiar. The field doesn't validate truth. It echoes your dominant observation. You haven't been creating, you've been repeating. Here's what many never notice. They wake up and unconsciously replay the past. They feel the same emotional patterns, narrate the same limiting stories, expect the same kind of outcomes, and then wonder why life stays the same. It's not due to a lack of desire for change. It's because they continue to embody the version of themselves that shaped their current circumstances. And the quantum field. It doesn't judge. It mirrors consistently, precisely, and without bias. Same identity, same filter, same narrative, same outcome. Now, when you make the decision to shift, here's the reframe. You don't need to overhaul every piece of your life. You don't need to micromanage every outcome. You only need to transform the one observing. Because when your inner narrator evolves, the external reality adjusts accordingly. So let me ask you this. Who is the version of you who no longer carries that emotional scar? Who is the one who embraces their light without apology? Who is the self that expects ease rather than struggle? That version isn't some distant future. It's already present in the field, waiting for you to focus in their direction. And the instant you start observing through their perspective, you initiate the process of becoming them. Let's anchor this into a practical shift, the script break technique. When you notice yourself reacting like the old version, pause, Close your eyes and ask, who's behind this reaction right now? What narrative is it tied to? Then follow up with, what would the upgraded version of me see or choose instead? That brief moment of awareness. That's you taking back the pen. That's how you exit the old storyline and begin crafting a new one. Because identity isn't rigid, it's malleable, it's multidimensional, and it bends to the direction of your focused energy. And now for the truth that rewrites everything. You were never broken. You were simply witnessing yourself through a distorted perspective. But once you adjust the lens, everything begins to rearrange. Your thinking softens, your energy opens, your nervous system calms, and your direction becomes clearer. Because the script you've been playing out isn't set in stone. It's crafted in vibration, light, and choice. And every observation from your higher self inscribes a new line. So now that the pen is back in your hand, it's time to author a new frequency. Still carrying the imprint of your past, then echoes of who you used to be will continue showing up. So how do you recalibrate your energy so completely to a new reality that it begins to feel natural? You're about to uncover what unfolds when focus turns into alignment, when your vibration becomes a declaration, and when your energy grounds you like an anchor. You've already realized how potent your focus truly is, not just as a mental process, but as a generating force. Because whatever you observe, you awaken. And whatever you awaken, you start to embody. This isn't poetic language or spiritual fluff. It's the actual science of consciousness. Now you see clearly, focus isn't just about choosing circumstances. It's about choosing identity. You're not merely watching reality unfold. You're stepping into what you keep observing. Every single day, you're immersed in endless possible versions of reality. One where you're in power, one where you feel stuck, one of abundance, one of survival mode. Your focus is the dial, the decoder, the access point. The more you lock into peace, the more you are peace. The more you focus on growth, the more your energy expands. And if you keep directing your awareness toward what's absent, you begin identifying as the version of yourself that always feels incomplete. This isn't cosmic punishment, it's energetic law. Because how you observe directly shapes your inner state, and your state becomes the template for your external world. The mind doesn't lead, attention does. According to Dr. Bruce Lipton, it's not your genetic makeup that dictates your path, it's your perception. When you observe through the lens of fear, your body enters a stress state. When you observe from love, your entire biology shifts into balance. And here's the mind-blowing part. Your brain literally rewires itself based on what you consistently focus on. Neuroplasticity, quantum resonance, vibrational reflection. Call it what you like, but the result is undeniable. You're continuously transforming into the version of yourself that your attention reinforces. So the real question isn't, what do I want? But rather, who am I willing to become through the way I observe? Integrating the new identity. Now that you've reclaimed conscious control over your power to observe, it's time to ground that transformation into practice. Here's a practical and transformative method to align with your next timeline. The focus loop technique. Morning activation. Before you check messages, headlines, or tasks, pause and ask, which version of reality will I choose to tune into today? Midday reset. Set a gentle alert on your phone. When it goes off, take a breath. Close your eyes and say, I return to the self I am stepping into. Nighttime integration. Before you drift off mentally, revisit the times you observed with intention. Feel sincere gratitude for every shift. Let that feeling soak into your system. Repeat this often, not as a chore, but as a devotion. Over time, that elevated version of you becomes your natural baseline, not through struggle, but through sacred repetition. This is the turning point. You don't need to push harder. You don't need to manipulate the universe into responding. All you need is to observe life through the lens of the identity that matches your highest potential, consistently, confidently, and clearly. Because when your observation turns into conviction, the field listens. And when your focus stabilizes, your new reality begins to crystallize. Now you remember, you're not a passive recipient of your surroundings. You're not trapped in a narrative you didn't author. You're not meant to endlessly react to external chaos. You are the witness. You are the chooser. You are the architect. What you choose to observe sets your frequency, and that frequency reshapes your entire experience. So take a breath. Tune in. Ask yourself right here, right now, what am I finally ready to call into existence? Who am I prepared to embody from this moment forward? Because this isn't just the end of a message, it's the opening of a new dimension, the doorway to your next chapter.